Greetings and welcome to another episode of Artist of the Night. Today we are going to be speaking with Ramon Aguirre. Ramon is an incredibly skilled artist. He resides in Manitou, and we're going to take some time to talk about creativity, the nature of creativity, his road to becoming an artist, and probably, maybe, hopefully solicit a little bit of useful advice out there for you other artists in the community. So, Ramon, how are you today?
I'm good.
Good to see you.
Nice seeing you.
Yeah. So Ramon, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into art?
Okay, so I used to draw a lot, as far as I can remember, and I think a big motivator was that my mom just was always amazed, and I liked hearing that from her. She just was always surprised, and I don't know if she exaggerated or not, but whether she did, it just made me keep on going.
Nice. So you get a lot of encouragement.
Yeah, so yeah, it was just drawing, just pencil drawing. I didn't really do painting until I got in high school class. I took all the art electives. That helped a little bit. And I guess in the back of my mind, I always considered myself an artist, but didn't think that that's what I would pursue, I wanted to do other things. I also didn't really link being an artist with making money. So I went in the career that what I do now for a living. I work on airplanes. But then it sort of went full circle. I had to move to Palm Springs, California for my second aviation job and the longest that I've been in. And Palm Springs, I don't know if you know, it's really big with art. There's a lot of galleries there. I used to go walk downtown and check out the artwork. And the combination of that, seeing all that art, and also thinking to myself, like, I could do better than what I'm seeing here, A combination of that, maybe getting tired of aviation a little bit, even though I'm still in that field. And then there was two artists that I discovered that really made me want to get back into it and learn how to paint. So that's when I started wanting to learn how to paint.
Who are the two artists?
So one of them is Czesław Beksinski. He's considered like the master of dark art, I guess, which I sort of fall in that category, even though I sort of jump in and out of that. And the other one is, so Beksinski's dead. He's a Polish artist. Then I wanted to know more, and I discovered another artist that is actually from the same hometown that I'm from, San Pedro, California. And he's still alive now. I think he's in his 50s. And it's Chet Zar. Which is funny because when I was a kid living in Long Beach, really close to San Pedro, I used to ride my bike around and walk in galleries in Long Beach just to check out the artwork, and I would see paintings with the last name Zar in them. And that happened to be his dad, or his stepdad, I think it is, that got him into painting. So, all these years later, like 15 years later, this Chet Zar influences me, and it was the son of this other Zar guy that I would see. Even though those things influenced me, it was always in the back of my mind to teach myself how to paint. Because I had the supplies that I had gotten in some kind of yard sale, and I didn't do it. And finally, when I discovered these two painters, I was like, man, I gotta do that, and I gotta learn how to do that.
So through learning, did you go to school for art, or was this a self-taught thing, or what was your method? What was your approach to learning how to paint?
Self-taught, even though drawing is the basis for any kind of painting, I guess. So if you know how to draw, then painting is going to be pretty natural, I guess.
Okay.
So, but you still got to learn how to mix paints and learn about the rules of neutral colors and how to mix and what to mix with it and different ways of manipulating the paint. So, so I just started going to libraries and looking for all the books that I thought would teach me. And I would read those. There were some that really stuck to my mind, and I'd look for the books or buy them online to own them and just keep reading. I took notes from all the books. I still have my notes now that I go back to once in a while to remind myself. And I actually pulled out some of the best books I've read just to name them out.
What would you recommend? That's a great resource.
So the best ones that have really taught me a lot, one of them is by Dan McCaw, and it's a proven strategy for creating great art.
Okay.
One of them. The other one is called Concept and Composition by Fritz Henning.
Okay.
The third is Color and Light, a guide for the realist painter, and that's by Gurney.
Okay. Awesome.
The fourth is Brushwork for the Oil Painter, and that's by Grupe Movali. And then there's two other books. They're not really about technique. They're just about being an artist. Mm-hmm. One of them is The Art Spirit by Robert Henry. And the other one is Art and Fear by David Bales and Ted Orland.
I've read Art and Fear. That's a great book.
Yeah.
Yes. Awesome.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So then self-study through the library, and then probably a fair amount of experimentation, I would imagine.
Experimentation and just walking into galleries a lot and looking at artwork, comparing to your own work, see how you're doing, Mm-hmm. I don't remember where I read, they said, if you don't know how good you are, then put one of your pieces next to your favorite painter, and it'll tell you whether you're good yet or not.
Nice. You've mentioned dark art a couple times, so maybe yeah. I'd like to maybe explore what that means to you, or what dark art is a little bit.
Yeah, so I said I only fall into that category sometimes. Mm-hmm. I mean, it definitely is what inspires me to paint. And there's a lot of reasons. One of them could be because I'm kind of a metalhead, I guess.
Okay.
And those two kind of go hand to hand.
Sure. Definitely.
I like all that, just dark, melancholic, dystopic, all that. That draws me in. I'm not sure why. When it comes to art, I think it automatically makes it interesting, Death is like the ultimate mystery. Mm-hmm. So I have this joke, if you suck at painting, put something that has death in it, and it'll automatically make your artwork just this much more interesting.
Very nice. No, and that makes sense. I mean, I know that, like, personally, I got into art through skateboarding and music as well. Like album covers and skateboards.
Yeah.
So and there's a lot of skulls and a lot of death and stuff with that, where I was like, oh, this really, this just kind of spoke to me for sure.
Yeah, same for me. Yeah, that's sometimes I'd pick out rock albums just because of the cover, not because I knew much of the band.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Good. And that's great. Let's go ahead and let's talk about some of your pieces.
Okay.
So the first one. Okay, and Ramon, you don't name your pieces, is that correct?
Not really, no.
Is there I'm curious, why is there a reason, or you just you feel like the work speaks for itself, or? Because I think it does. I think it definitely does.
Really? Yeah, I don't put much of a philosophical story behind them. I just sort of do it to get I definitely try to get a certain feeling when you look at the piece, and make it interesting and beautiful at the same time. But yeah, there's like no dialogue or anything to while I'm doing it. Just having a good time, really.
So it's kind of a creation of a mood or creation of an emotion or a feeling that
Yeah.
Let's go ahead, Ramon, and talk about, we'll just call this untitled number one for the day, for our purposes of this interview. This is actually the first piece of your work that I saw. And when I first saw it, it stopped me in my tracks. I instantly saw it and I was like, who is this? And what is this guy is doing? It's just a stunning piece of art. So maybe tell us a little bit about Untitled number one.
Okay, so yeah, a lot of people get a similar reaction to that one. It's probably just because of the depth in it. I put a lot of time into it. Some pieces I put more time than others. That one definitely I worked on for a long time. Not only to get the look that I wanted, but also because I got stuck and didn't know what to do for a little bit. It went through a lot of changes, and it started actually because because I like to just doodle on Post-it notes. I think that one started as a tiny drawing on a Post-it note. Second, because I was studying perspective on my own. Also, I have a book on perspective that's really good. And so the skulls, if you see, they just kind of perfectly fade in from a big one to a smaller one, and they sort of start turning. So really, that's what it was just a study. And then I decided to blow it up, and yeah, that's just what came out of it.
Nice. So it was born on a Post-it note?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's excellent. And so, it's an oil painting, correct?
Yeah.
And yeah. Do you primarily work in oils, or do you work with acrylics too, or are you kind of in the
mostly oils?
Mostly oils. Something I think I would notice about a lot of your work that I've seen is that there's kind of a work. Maybe it's because you're working with oils, but there's like kind of a very like classical feel to a lot of your work.
Yeah, I'm really inspired by the old masters, and a lot of people have said this, but I want to say the same thing. If you can do it, if you want to be a good painter, just study the old masters and maybe even limit your palette, because at that time they didn't have a big variety of oil paints. So if you can do a lot with a little bit of paints, sometimes it's more beautiful than having all the paints you can throw on the painting.
Is that a common approach for you when you're painting? Do you consciously limit your palette in that sense?
For that specific one, I did. Actually, for all my pieces, I do limit it, but they all have the primaries in one way or another, whether they're cool primaries or warm primaries. But yeah, I like to jump around.
And are there specific old masters that really speak to you, or who really have influenced you?
Probably Rembrandt and Da Vinci. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's good company right there. Those are good standards to kind of hold up to.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sometimes I get a little bit obsessive about it. Like I even have ground my own paints for certain paintings, just because I want to get in the state of mind that they were in, get the same consistency of paints and try to use the same medium. I do add marble dust in them sometimes, which is something the old masters did as well. And what it does is it's almost like I don't know how to say it, like it inflates the medium a bit and puts like little crystals so that the painting reflects light a little bit better.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it gives it more depth. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and talk about, I guess we could call this Untitled number 2, but there is definitely a word on there, so I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go with Mickey. So
all right, we can call it that.
Tell me about Mickey. And actually, I can see Mickey is looking at me through the computer right there. I can see him.
Yeah. So that's my son, actually.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. Damien. So I just, like I said, I like to jump in and out of what you'd call dark art, but I don't know, that one, he's got this evil look on his face, so I guess you could still consider it dark.
Yeah, he does. I've met your son before. I don't think he seems that menacing to me.
I don't know if he knows I like him making that face or how it happened, but this is the second photo I take of him where he does that. The very first one, I asked him to smile. He was much younger, and I think he didn't know what it was, and he did that.
That's awesome.
This one was just started about 2 months ago, I'd say, maybe 1 month ago. So I jump back and forth. I usually have like 3 paintings that I'm working on, and I work in glazes, which is the way that old masters worked. You let it dry, come back, add a glaze, let it dry, come back. And that's also how you achieve that depth if you're trying to get that old masters look, which you mentioned. So that's what I'm doing with this one. And that's why it seems like 2 months seems like a lot, but actually it's 2 months on and off.
And that's just part of the process then?
Yeah.
Okay. And then do you have like 3 paintings in rotation then, so you can let one sit for 2 months and then there's something else that you can work on in the meantime?
Yeah, I'm also working on that one, even though I'm getting ready to maybe call it done. I'm not too sure.
Okay.
And they're completely different subjects, so I mix a different palette for that.
And so did you work off of a photograph with that one?
Yeah, so I just take a picture with my tablet and then just put it aside and start getting the composition. At first, it's just with umbers, which is another way that old masters worked. You start with browns, mostly worry about getting things in place and getting the values right. Then let that dry and come back, make any changes if you have to. Which is the nice thing with oils, So for example, I'll have very rough paintings started with umbers. Then you come back and you notice that maybe your eyes could have been lower, or you just mix your paints with little medium, because if they have less medium, then they're more opaque. So you can just, with your oils, paint over that and drop the eyes if you need to, which I've done before. You want to look at your painting more than actually work on it. Actually, I think it was Picasso that said that. So stand back, sit down, look at it, look at it while you're eating or before you walk out the door, because looking is just as important, or maybe even more than painting itself. Not only looking at your piece to look for things you might want to change, but looking at artwork that's in a gallery or looking at old masters or books, you learn a lot just by simply looking.
Do you want to talk about Untitled number 3, the one that is right behind you? You're working in tandem with Mickey with?
So that piece just started as a little thumbnail drawing, which I do pretty often now. It actually saves you time and room. So what I do is just take a regular sheet of paper, draw a little square on it, about like 2 inches by 1 inch, or maybe a little bigger. and start the composition there. Instead of doing a drawing on the whole sheet, you hate it, and then you just, not only you wasted all that time, but you wasted all that ink, and the whole paper. Instead, I do like 4 on one sheet and come up with compositions. So that's how that one started. It's just sort of a figure with like a dress on, although her face sort of looks like a skull. I was trying to push it more towards an abstract, but I have the tendency of just keep on working, and then you can start to figure what it is. So I just transferred it onto canvas.
Nice. So it kind of reveals itself as you work on it. Is that?
Yeah, a lot of them do that. This one looks close to my doodle, but what changed is I felt like something was missing, so I added that cat that's there.
Nice.
I think it looks sort of what my sketch. They never turn out as good as my doodles look. So going back to the old masters, a lot of them like to do paintings with the point of interest on these lines that are lined up with the golden ratio. A lot of artists do it subconsciously. They don't know they're doing it, but they do it because our brains are programmed to see things in certain places, and they just look more beautiful when they're in that particular spot, so you can actually take measurements of your canvas and say, okay, this is the perfect spot, this is where I want this figure, blah blah blah. So you can do that. On that particular one, I didn't do it, but there has been some paintings where I've done that.
Awesome.
And you can definitely tell that they just look more balanced, and they sell faster too.
Well, and the golden ratio is something that is found in nature too. So it's a naturally occurring system. Yeah. So which is probably where our brains pick up on it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ramon, how about let's tell us a little bit about, we'll call this one Untitled number 5.
I also use the golden ratio for it. So the 2 little buildings, the trees, the horizon, the hand, all that run along some of the vertical and horizontal lines that you'd get on your working area if you do the math and put the golden ratio on that. And that piece was also started just because I wanted to do something along those lines. I drew that on paper, just on a regular sheet, and I actually started it during lunchtime at work. I have this little toolbox I carry just to not stand out so much,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe people think it's a toolbox full of tools, when I walk into work, but I actually
It's painting supplies, art supplies. Yeah. That's awesome. So do you hide in the corner of the break room and work on stuff?
I hide a little bit, mostly I don't like having too much of an audience when I'm painting. It's a bit distracting, although there was one coworker watching, and he saw the beginning and process of it. And so I started the very rough sketch with oils at work, and then brought it home and continued on that with glazes, just like most of my pieces. And yeah, I think that turned out to be one of my favorite pieces. And that one sold in the show I had last year, September.
Awesome.
Kreuser Gallery. Yeah.
Are you going to get in trouble if someone from your work watches this and finds out that you carry a toolbox full of painting supplies?
I was wondering if you were going to ask that.
I hope you're not offended that I am naming your pieces for you as we do go through this.
No, I'm not.
Okay. So let's go ahead and call this one Untitled number 6.
Okay.
Let's talk about this. It's cool. It's definitely freaky. I love it.
Yeah, that's a really good piece also, and I didn't get a chance to show that one too much because it sold very fast. I think the only place I showed it was at the Mac.
Okay.
I showed it somewhere else and it was gone. I was just trying to create something really creepy, I guess, just simply for fun. And what's funny is that actually I had that piece in the coffee shop, and the owner told me when I came in a few times that all the kids were really scared of that. So that I was like, okay, that was a successful piece then, because it was freaking people out. I'm really improvising with most of my pieces. You know, before I progressed on that piece, it didn't have the teeth. I think I did like just the regular mouth, and someone made a comment on it. I can't remember what it was, and I was like, I don't like that. I'm gonna change it. So, which is why some artists don't show their pieces to people before they're done. But I always do. Actually, when I have visitors, the first thing is like, you want to see my studio? Mm-hmm. So I don't mind hearing comments, and it changed it for the better. I think it turned out really good with the teeth.
So Ramon, you are a self-taught artist. You know, obviously you've done a ton of work, a ton of research, a ton of study. You've gone out to art galleries and looked at stuff. Already given us a great comprehensive list of books. You know, I'm curious, you know, someone that's watching this that is maybe a young artist that's just starting out, or somebody that's older that is thinking about kind of exploring their creativity. If there's anything that you maybe would like to offer to tell people about creativity, the process of creativity, and you know what to do, I guess, or what you would suggest.
Just learn the basics, draw a lot, you know, and get inspiration from everything. I mean, it's not really anything mystical, creativity. It's like, you know, I always like to compare it to music, even though I suck, you know, but I think painting and music have a lot in common. Just if you're a guitarist, you know, like learn your scales and then play around that, you know what I mean? Listen to other bands and steal something and let it process through you and let it come out your own way of expressing that, you know what I mean? So really, I don't think there's anything mystical to creativity. Yeah,
just do it.
Yeah, just do it. From everything. I get inspiration from travels even, you know. My wife likes to travel. I don't really like it. Every time we're out somewhere, I'm thinking like, man, I can be spending time in the studio right now. But so, you know, I drag my feet, we'll go somewhere, and then I see something cool that inspires me. Take a picture. You could be inspired by your own photos that you take wherever you go. And then I'll be happy that I went somewhere.
Awesome.
But yeah, just inspiration from everything. Yeah.
All right. Well, Ramon, thank you so very much for taking the time to sit down with me today and talk to me about your art and creativity and everything. We're going to go ahead and provide some social media links or your website, you know, places that people can go if they want to learn more about your art or see more of your art. But again, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. And yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Dustin.
All right, we will. I'll talk to you soon, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.
You too.
All right, bye.
Yeah. Bye.